I don't
Read fast, eat ass. That's the motto. No, no, it's not.
Welcome to the Variety Voiceover Nerdcast. This week, two geeks travel through anime time. But first, I'm your host, Derek Yarnovic, joined by my co-host.
Oh, Camden Parsons, the one and only.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a pretty good day today. I'm ready to talk about some anime stuff. I did my challenge. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I'm excited for the challenge. Kingdom Come was just.
It was pretty good, wasn't it?
It was
We'll get
so
to it.
good.
We'll get to
it. But first, we're gonna go ahead and jump into news. First
All
thing
right.
I got for you right now is ReZero was announced for a season 4.
Oh, nice.
ReZero, if you haven't seen it, is a fantastic anime.
I have not seen that one. No.
It really is. It's a different kind of.
Are there swords in it?
Yeah. There's swords
there
in it.
usually is.
Yeah, but it's a isekai.
I know I've had these explained to me before, but I don't know what that is offhand.
So isekai is like a kind of like traveling to another world or a rebirth kind of thing.
Oh, okay. I do like those.
Well, this one, he couldn't die and then come back to a previous spot. So he's like.
So he's respawning.
It's like a respawn anchor points, and like dude feels everything, and
so he dies and then
yes,
it's not like a boop and you're good. It's like he experiences death and then
he experiences the full thing of death and then is transported back. Like I think one of the first episodes, as he was going through and getting this kind of thing going, he was getting transport back 3 days, and he kept like trying to get this thing done. Get this thing done, and I don't want to spoil it because I think you'd enjoy it.
Sounds like something I'd like.
But he keeps dying, so he's like changing things, and basically like doing things over and over and over again, trying to get a different outcome, and like dude is just getting massacred through the whole thing.
Dude, we've all had days like that. I'll tell you what.
And it's season 4 is in the works right now. They don't have a release date or anything like that, but it's definitely something that's like really exciting.
Nice. Mine might take a second. For those in the realm still following the MCU, today, as of recording, this list is not complete. We'll have probably the full one next week. But as of recording, today Marvel is doing a live stream where they're announcing the cast of Avengers Doomsday. Which is the next big event. It's gonna secede. Is that the word? Proceed. Excuse me. It's gonna proceed, right? But it's before Secret Wars.
Yes, proceed.
This is a word I'm looking for. Yeah, proceed. It's the next big Avengers movie. So right now we'll go ahead and read off the list of who so far has been announced for Avengers Doomsday. Thanks to Deadline for keeping up with all this live stream, because I'm sure not gonna sit through all this nonsense. So far, we've got Chris Hemsworth has been announced to come back as Thor. We have Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie, Captain America. Vanessa Kirby coming back as the Invisible Woman. Paul Rudd is returning as Ant-Man. Florence Pugh is coming back as Yelena Belova. Wyatt Russell is coming back as John Walker. Oh, I'm going to butcher that. Namor's coming back. Yay, it's Namor. Simu Liu is coming back as Shang-Chi. Sebastian Stan's back as Bucky Barnes. Oh, I'm going to butcher that too. Shuri, Black Panther. Wow, she's back. Way to go. Why do people have such hard to pronounce names? The Thing is coming back. Kelsey Grammer. Holy crap, he played Beast in the original X-Men movies from the 2000s.
Which I love.
Those are good.
Like those are so good.
Louis Paulman, who's Sentry in the upcoming Thunderbolts movie. Danny Ramirez, who's the new Falcon. Joseph Quinn, who is Johnny Storm. David Harbour, who is Red Guardian. Winston Duke, who is M'Baku. Hannah John Kamen is Ghost. Hey, I'm Camden.
Hey,
she forgot the D.
Camden.
She forgot the D.
Yeah, that was her fault.
And Tom Hiddleston has been announced to come back as Loki, which honestly, with the way Loki is, who's surprised?
Yeah, it's Loki, the best move they can go. See, Camden.
I heard you, and I know it. I know it. I'm trying to.
Because it's Loki and low key.
You hurt me physically sometimes. Like you, like what? I can't even
get you a level because you can't even.
Anywho, So that's all I have for that. We've decided we're gonna split. Do a couple stories each. So that's the story that I brought to the table today. What's your second story, brother?
Okay, so Kaiju number 8. There has a movie release coming up, August 13th, 14th, and 16th for whatever reason. I don't know if it's an error on their part or if they just hate Tuesdays.
Multiple movies or
no? It's Kaiju number 8. That's just the 3-day running that they have for. I think it's a AMC and another one.
I see what you're saying.
Exclusive. Yeah. AMC and I have a note for it.
Hope it's Cinemark because that's the one that I go to.
It's not.
Darn.
I was already looking for it. Regal. So AMC and Regal theaters.
I don't think we have a Regal near here.
I don't think we do. I know we have an AMC.
Every AMC near here has closed down.
Which would make sense.
They weren't doing super. The only real good movie theater we have is like 45 minutes away.
Right, and mind you, I love that one.
It's so nice. It's got reclining seats. I love Cinemark. Not sponsored. I love you, Cinemark. If you want to sponsor the podcast, even though we get 20 viewers an episode right now.
But if there is someone out there at a desk listening to us and wanting to sponsor us, we'll gladly take that sponsorship.
We like money.
We do. Kaiju number 8. The movie is April 13th, 14th, and 16th. I don't know what they doing the 15th. I think that's an error. I think something like that.
It could be. Or it's closed. Is that? It might be a holiday or something. What day is that?
Tax
April 15th?
Day. It's tax day.
Well, yeah.
That's
you can't watch movies when you have to do your taxes.
Yeah.
Holy crap, it's that soon? I haven't done my taxes.
I haven't either. Yeah, we're progressive.
Welcome to the Variety Voiceover where we don't do our taxes, I guess.
Well, we will. We're definitely going to do it.
Yeah,
we're definitely going to do it. But yeah, the movie is going to have a new episode for the new season and a movie title, kind of like how we went and seen
the Solo
Leveling. They had the recap for season 1 and then a couple episodes of season 2. I think it's just one episode, if I'm not mistaken, and I probably am. Research is not my best topic, but yeah, I'm excited for it. I think if we could absolutely find an AMC theater around here, I would love to go see it. But
which one was this? Kaiju number 8?
Kaiju number 8. Yeah, it's, if you haven't seen it, it's are you familiar with kaijus?
I know what kaijus are. Yeah. I have a Mothra glider in Fortnite. I also have the Godzilla skin in Fortnite.
So you're familiar with kaijus?
Yeah, I'm
cool.
familiar with kaijus.
It's a very similar topic around that, and where they have like these kaijus emerging, and this dude gets a parasite down the throat like a goat, and it's pretty cool. But there's a task force that actually takes care of these kaiju, and homie's part of it, but he's like, he's like this out of shape dude, but he's like only 30.
That sounds kind of familiar.
But like he's in his 30s, but like he's past his prime. He like, they don't want to take him, and like he's dedicated, and he keeps going. But like, yeah, he gets this parasite, this kaiju parasite inside of him, and now he's kaiju number 8, and he's like a badass, and it's wonderful.
Who are the other kaijus? There's 7 other ones?
There are 7 other ones. They notably name them over their power levels. I think it's if you have to be above a certain like power scaling for them to give you a number. And
so there's a bunch of kaijus, but only 8 of them that are that
right.
Like, priority.
They go over a certain. I think it's like 9.8 or something like that on their scale.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, and I guess between 9.7 and 9.8, they're like magnitude stronger. So like it's
Godzilla.
Yeah.
I know what kaiju number 8 is because Spotify recommended me the song "Nobody" by One Republic, which is apparently from that show. I think I've listened to it twice.
Okay. What do you think?
I don't remember. That was a while ago.
So it sounds like it was not memorable.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's One Republic.
Yeah.
One Republic makes pretty good like coworker music. Counting Stars is a good song, but like I don't really got
what do you mean by coworker music?
You've never heard the phrase coworker music?
No.
Okay, so coworker music is kind of like the shill-in, like you got that one coworker who's like, oh man, I love this new music that's on the radio, and then plays like a Maroon 5 song.
Yeah, kind of like a Big Time Rush.
No, that's not the same at all. You bastard. No, but the stuff that's played on the radio that's like very clearly kind of just like
It's the same shit regurgitated.
yeah, kind. I mean,
Yeah.
not necessarily to that degree, but just stuff that isn't like groundbreaking. It's just standard music. Like something like Imagine Dragons is a great example.
It's the
chord
vanilla
music.
ice cream of music, right? Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
nothing
yeah, pretty
notable
much.
about vanilla
Like
ice cream.
vanilla ice cream's good.
Yeah.
But like if I'm gonna go get ice cream, I'm not just gonna get vanilla. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
chord
get you.
music. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic, and that's a great segue into our main topic today.
How on God's green earth is that a good segue?
It's
Go ahead.
not-
What's our main topic?
It's not, but we're gonna make it a good segue
All right.
into it. So how vanilla ice cream is.
Go ahead.
I'm not gonna.
What's our main topic?
So our main topic today, man, we're actually gonna be talking about anime over time.
Okay.
Just kind of like the evolution of it. Kind of get our perspectives on it. I wanted to keep this episode kind of loose and have a just conversation. We're not having like a strict kind of set guidelines. We did some rankings. We did yesterday or last week's episode around Invincible and the ending of season 3. My next one will be about the wrapping up of season 2 of Solo Leveling.
I figured. I'll get.
I was going to do that, but this upcoming Saturday is going to be a hour-long episode of Solo Leveling. It's going to be their season finale.
Okay.
Upcoming this week. Yeah.
Oh, do you think they'll have it dubbed before our next episode? Well, before we cover that?
No, which is going to be a little rough.
I'm gonna have to watch.
You're gonna have to
entire hour-long special and sub, aren't I?
Well, you did that with Demon Slayer. Oh, not Demon
No,
Slayer.
the Solo movie.
Solo
I mean
Leveling
and
movie.
it wasn't so bad. I can definitely do it. I just
Just read fast, man.
read fast, eat ass. That's the motto. No, no, it's not. All right. Well, welcome to the Friday voiceover.
But yeah, no, it's definitely going to be something that over time anime's evolved in ways that visually there's a huge difference.
This is why you had me watch.
That's why I had you watch 2 older
Okay.
animes from like the late 90s, I think they were.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like 98, 96. And 2 ones that are fairly new. I mean, last couple of years. So, I know we're not going to go into exactly what you watch for the challenge this week. We have a little bit of segment for that, but we do have Cowboy Bebop to kind of go off of.
Yeah.
And it's as you can tell, it's very similar animation style to Trigun.
Yeah.
The aspect ratio is a little bit different on the viewing on Crunchyroll, I'm sure.
Aspect ratio. No, it was 4:3, the box version.
Yeah,
I didn't have it widescreen.
I thought the Cowboy Bebop wasn't.
Neither of them were. They were both 4:3.
Okay. Well, hey,
I can't remember the name
built
for widescreen format. If there's got to be a number ratio. I don't know what it is offhand though.
But it was built for the TVs,
Box
like
TV,
box
yeah.
TVs.
It's so funny looking back and watching older stuff. Like I haven't experienced it with anime at all, but I know that you go back and watch because when I was growing up on Disney is when that kind of shift happened.
Yeah.
Of 4:3 into widescreen, and going back and watching some episodes of Sweet Life of Zack and Cody on Disney Channel, where it's it's all 4:3, and then all of a sudden it's widescreen out of nowhere, and it's much better resolution.
Right.
That was Wizards of Waverly Place was one that we really watched hard because I didn't really watch Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I watched Sweet Life on Deck, which was already widescreen.
Yeah.
This is way off topic. I'm sorry to pivot.
It's kind of similar. I mean, there's definitely a lot of that goes into just the upgradability of the visuals.
Yeah,
right?
watching something that you've been around for a long time, watching it progressively get better as it goes. I think that's cool. Especially something that's been on I don't know a whole lot of something I was trying to think of anime that have been on for a long time. Freaking One Piece.
Yeah.
Dude, like I said, I mean that's something that'd be a great example of that, of watching the progression of
Right.
looking like a 90s anime too. I'm sure I don't know what it looks like today. I don't watch One Piece because I'm not a sucker. But
okay.
but yeah, it's that watching that transition I'm sure is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that because I got into One Piece later and I explained it. I think it was in our first episode or it was on our pilot episode.
I think it was the first one because I remember mocking
so,
you
too.
for it.
Yeah, but basically it just going back and watching it later on like I did, you can really see because I did about what is it, 600 episodes of it, and I've watched that all in a span of like a few months.
Mm-hmm.
So like I went really hard into One Piece, and just to over a couple months see the progression of the animation.
You said, especially when you're watching it that condensed, that close together, Because obviously this stuff happens over a real long period of time, but having the luxury of streaming and everything that you can just watch it at your own discretion, you can really speed up that time travel process, I guess.
Right. Right. And you get an appreciation of like kind of the I imagine all of the effort that went into those animation styles from back then. Because I imagine they didn't really have all of the technology and things that we have now. I mean, you got to think about it this way: if you're looking at something that was made in the '90s, what was your well, not your experience because you weren't born in that time frame.
Yeah, but I enjoy stuff from the '90s.
Right,
You know?
but
I'm well cultured. At least try to be. Like, it's so funny. All the time I have conversations with people at like works like that. Like, oh yeah, this movie's from like 1994. Oh, you probably don't know that one before your time. I'm like, dude. Well, like I like that type of stuff. Like I had a guy talking to me who was like, oh, it's this movie. I don't know if you've ever heard of it called Back to the Future. Dude, I've seen Back to the Future. Like, I'm not like that ignorant,
Well, the reason I approach it is not
my brother. On the other hand, though, dude, he's so pop culture illiterate. People all the time be like, "Oh, you ever seen the big one?" They always talk about is Indiana Jones. He only knows Indiana Jones because of the Lego game.
Yeah,
I think that's funny.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, sorry,
but I was not kind of going into that realm where it's like, oh, you've not seen this or you haven't, but to kind of breach into the way of like, I remember these things from whenever I was growing up.
Oh yeah,
they weren't something that I was looking at retrospectively. It was something that was like, these are all that it is.
Oh yeah, it's the different.
It's a different perspective of it where you could turn that off and then go watch 1080p videos.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Versus me in 360p.
This is the peak of human
This is great.
It's me, little Derek.
What?
I remember you told me you used to say that all the time. You'd like say a sentence. Yeah. Like, it's me, little Derek.
That's
little lore drop.
That is canon.
That
for
is
sure.
Canon. It is canon. Yeah.
Yeah, but just kind of like seeing that evolution.
I would be interested to learn how anime was made back then, because I know like a little bit about like Western animation and like back in the 90s for a long time until computers got good enough to do animation on there. Animation was done by hand on like individual cells.
Yeah.
Like just flipping back and forth. That's how the movement happens.
Yeah.
So anime is so well detailed, and like if that's how they were doing it over in Japan when they were still sketch out every single panel and then flip them back and forth, like that. It sounds intense.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely a lot of passion that would go into something like that, and I mean you got to think about it this way: if you're making one singular episode and it takes you a very long time to do it, you're kind of I would say you're committed to that. You have a little bit more passion into it versus and I've never made anything. There's nothing that I have that is like a genuine kind of insight into this, but it's some perspective and an opinion of mine. But I imagine if you have something and it takes you a day and you're working a 9 to 5 to do it, you're not really invested in that, right?
No, I think that's something that's different too that I've learned. I don't know how much of this is true because like I said I'm not that well versed in this, but it seems to me like a lot of animators for anime and things of the nature seem to be a lot more passionate about making their stuff, because it seems like over here it's a lot of just like that's the job,
right?
You just have to animate because that's your job, and the conditions seem to not be very great either. A lot of these movies and especially CGI I think we talk about too, but it's kind of a different playing field,
right?
Just a lot of it seems very forced and not very well done anymore for the sole fact that we got to pump this stuff out sooner. Versus anime, where a lot of it does seem like passion projects. I've heard stories of people just leaving projects because it wasn't how they wanted it to be or how it turned out, creative difference than that. Like being so dedicated to a project, you'd lose a job for it.
Right, and that's kind of one that kind of brings back a topic we talked about a couple weeks ago with the One Punch Man.
Yeah,
where it was made by one person. Like the trailer for it was made by one person. And granted, yeah, there's only so much you can do as a singular person for that, and it's
But to be so dedicated that when everyone else walks away, you're
still there.
continue. Yeah.
But like, I don't know, the quality of it and everything that went into it. I mean, the feedback alone was something that was ill received, on my opinion. I mean, you can't rip someone down
when it's one person
doing the job of a whole team.
Yeah.
And in those things, like,
I know a thing or two about that. That's how my nemesis and I met. You know, I had to lock in and do the work of a whole team because my nemesis was there.
I love that we keep bringing the lore of this nemesis.
Yeah, I have a nemesis.
And
this is real too. I won't say his name for the sake of the podcast, but this is real. This is 100% real. I have a nemesis.
I see it on his face, fellas.
I haven't talked to him in years.
Yeah.
Haven't even seen him in years, but he knows.
He knows. I imagine this gets to someone one day, and then
I have friends who listen to this podcast who know this person. They know who I'm talking about. My nemesis.
We're gonna get hate mail.
Yeah, I really want this show to blow up for the sole fact of him finding this and being like, I know you're talking about me. I don't even want the fame. I don't want the money. Whatever. I just want this to get big enough that it reaches him. I just think that'd be really fun.
He's gonna sign us up or email up for like spam mail.
Our email, if you guys are interested in being part of the show, you could email us if you want at varietyvoiceoverpod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
If you're my nemesis, that's for you.
We will send you straight to spam.
No, I'll respond. I'm on the show. I'll read it out and be like, MK Ultra Truther 69 says, I hate you, please die. I'll be like, can't. My future's so bright, man. You know I gotta wear shades.
You're wearing regular glasses
Shut
right now.
up.
We're kind of getting off topic here.
Yeah, I like to think to dip my feet in the pool for a minute. I think that something that I've kind of noticed now going back to watch these two older ones as opposed to a lot of my anime intake, I guess, has been post 2010. So it was really interesting kind of going back to watch something like Trigun and Cowboy Bebop, where they're both at least I think I said a little bit in my Cowboy Bebop review. It's kind of hard to say fast. Cowboy Bebop.
Like kind of like variety voiceover. You say
Variety
really
voiceover.
Fast.
Right, voice.
Like as an intro.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But no, part of that I think I said was it felt very subtle. I think creativity thrives through limitation. And like we talked about before with the cells and everything like that, like obviously animating in the 90s was a much more difficult task than it probably is now,
Right.
And I think that you can kind of see, I don't want to say where maybe like corners were cut, whatever, but like ways that they managed to thrive through the difficulty of animating back then, of like maybe having a shot hold for longer for the sake of maybe not having to animate anymore, but in doing so kind of creating more tension or something like that, I think that's part of why when I brought up Cowboy Bebop, there's definitely like a certain vibe almost. It's kind of hard to describe of why it feels so much different. But I think I said something about it being less vibrant and in your face like a lot of modern anime is, which I think kind of helped. I don't know if that was for the sake of, I don't know how like westernized they were, because it definitely seems like now they more embrace the Japanese culture that it comes from, as opposed to at least the two that I've seen so far of the older stuff is just Space Cowboy and Earth Cowboy. Yeah. Has been like they're not like Japanese, you know? It's just stories that happen to be animated by Japanese people, you know.
I think that there's more of the what I have suggested in those things. I mean, there's a lot out there that is going to be giving more of that undertone that you kind of might be looking for. As verse to Space Cowboy,
Earth Cowboy.
But when it comes down to that, and I think that even now they see the same kind of cuts in mainstream media, like Invincible, where I've seen there's parodies in like kind of like things where there's just a snippet of Mark, and then like in a flying sequence, it's just like the background moving, and he's not moving whatsoever.
I think Invincible is a. You know what? Try a variety voiceover challenge. Go an entire episode without mentioning Invincible.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I'm so obsessed. It is so hard. But no, seriously, I think Invincible is kind of a bad one to compare as far as Western animation goes, just for the sole fact that, like, you can tell a lot of Invincible's budget goes to the voice actors, and the story is so good that it doesn't really matter. It's serviceable. Could be better, absolutely. But is it bad? I wouldn't say so.
That's fair.
I think that if you want to compare anime to something Western, I think that you know something along the lines of, like, you know, obviously my first thoughts on like Spider-Verse or Arcane with it shines, but those aren't 2D. I think that that's kind of an unlevel playing field. I don't know. Point is, I don't think Invincible's a good comparison. Just because of the...
I was more talking about like the corners and stuff like that can be cut with budgets.
Yeah.
Because like I imagine in whenever I watched Trigun from this past week, I've noticed more and more because I it's been a long time since I've watched a lot of like the older animes, and I want to watch like some of them again, like the Trigun, the Cowboy Bebop, the Gundam, you know, Samurai Champloo.
Is Gundam one thing?
No, there's a series of it. It's kind of like a bunch of different ones.
But it's like a franchise.
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought that Gundam was any anime that dealt with giant robots.
No.
So it's specific.
It's a specific anime.
Okay, I didn't know
like
that.
there's Gundam Wing, there's Gundam, you know, blah blah blah.
I thought Gundam was just any kind of like big
No.
robot fight thing,
No.
which makes me a little bit sad now because that means Spider-Man does not, in fact, have a Gundam.
No.
But he does have a giant robot.
Yeah.
Leopardon. The robot's name is Leopardon.
That's fantastic.
It comes from there was a blanking offhand. It's 70s, late 70s, 77, I think. Live action Spider-Man series exclusive to Japan.
Oh, it looks terrible.
Oh no, it's awesome. His name is Supaida Man, and he and instead of having like two web shooters, he had one giant wrist attachment thing that shot a net.
Okay.
And it also called Leopardon, his giant robot.
Why did he need it?
I don't know. I know a little bit about this show, but I've never actually seen it, and I want to watch it so bad because Supaida Man sounds so awesome. He what's funny enough is he's kind of a big player in the Spider-Verse, Spider-Geddon comics.
Okay.
Like Leopardon is it's canon. It's that he is a founding member of the Spider-Verse.
That's hilarious.
I think it's fantastic.
Oh my goodness. It looks like they had an action figure. And you ever see like those really bad like claymation videos?
I got to bring up Spider-Man. I'm obligated by contract.
Contractually
obligated. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
By who wrote that contract? What are we doing?
Me.
Yeah, you wrote a contract with yourself.
And I signed it, so it's legally binding. So
yeah.
I also think that newer anime, you know, it's a lot more.
Yeah, it's theatrical. That's a good way to put it. Cinematic is a better one. Like there's, I think we as a species need more and more visual stimulation.
Fact.
As we go. I mean, we have a phone in front of our face.
Oh yeah, dude, my attention span is so bad.
Like,
I haven't been listening to a word you've been saying.
Yeah, and where'd your pants go?
What?
Huh?
Oh, where'd my pants go?
But I think that it needs to be, and I think this goes in a lot of things in life where like you have to one up it, you have to do better. Things have to go progressively.
Yeah,
and that's a viewpoint of like a lot of things, and I am going back and watching these things, and I appreciate a lot of the older styles and a lot of the stuff. Maybe not the story, because some of the stories are kind of rewatching them. They're not as
maybe
nostalgic.
Don't hold up as well. Yeah.
But like to kind of circle back into the whole like budget and stuff like that. I've watched a bunch of like them reusing animations for different things. Like the same exact animation that was like 3 minutes ago is now the same one in a different background.
You mentioned like Trigun?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Trigun did that in
I hadn't really noticed that.
Couple episodes. It was just like the same thing.
We'll talk about that for sure, but I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like see, because I don't know if they do that now for a lot of the animes that are out.
They probably don't have to anymore.
Right.
I said not only is it probably easier to do, but it's also like a lot of that's a cost cutting measure, and a lot of them seem to have enough budget that like if you need a shot of person A rolling and then another shot of person A rolling the other way. Instead of just flipping it, you can just actually animate person A going the other way.
Yeah. Which is It's fantastic. That's always funny to think about how there's so many animations that they do that cutting the corner, where it's just like, you know, new animes do that, and they'll change one small thing about a regular. They'll animate a goblin, and that same goblin will be there but blue now. In another anime, and now that same goblin.
Well, asset reuse is not a new thing at all. There's a video of showing Disney doing that all the time. I think it's something to do with like some animation like in the Black Cauldron is like exactly the same, just like retraced of the same animation from something in Snow White or something like that. Same thing. There's something in the Jungle Book that's like that. Like they used to do it all the time back in the day of just like, you know, why completely reanimate and figure out how this movement's supposed to be when you can just take this asset that you already have, and
which
just
is fair.
Go over it, yeah.
But it seems, and I'm not knowledgeable enough in these certain circumstances, and it's just a fleeting thought. But like, I've seen some new animes, like from Remonster, and like that time I got reincarnated as a slime. There's some things that are very similar when it comes down to the assets, but I don't think they're the same studio. There's a lot of these like small budget animes that have the same goblins and have the same, you know, monsters and wolves and stuff like that. They look very similar.
Yeah, that one would be hard to explain. Like I said, I don't know what goes on over there as well to have an answer for that. But I can imagine it's probably just like comes down to design. You know, wolves look the same in real life. If you're modeling a wolf, if people are modeling a wolf and they're both good at modeling, it's probably gonna look fairly similar. You know, so it's like it may just be like coincidence that they look that close. You know.
Which is wild because, like, I'm not smart enough to understand copyrights, and I can't imagine how that would work.
Apparently, I'm not either.
But
if you're listening to this, please go check out Comeback Kid Films. I did an awesome Invincible video, and it did not go anywhere because of the copyright I got on it, which is for commentary use. I'm pretty sure I used it right. Yeah, I digress.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I'm curious on how that went, but like, I don't know. It's I feel like there's a lot of rambling going on right now, and I just love anime.
I think going back to what I had said before with the, you know, it feels less, older anime feels less from Japan and just happens to be animated in Japan kind of thing. I think that's another thing too that modern anime that I've noticed kind of does more is embracing their culture and putting that more into their work. Like so far out of the newer stuff that I've watched, I don't think Solo Leveling counts. You said that takes place in Korea.
Yeah, it's a Korean one.
But like Jujutsu Kaisen is in Japan.
Yeah.
So Sword Art Online's in Japan. That's the other one, the big one that I watched.
I think they're all kind of stationed around Japan.
But that's what I'm saying though is the Japan itself acts as a like anchor point of it. You know, so like I said, this like Cowboy Bebop is a space thing, right?
It's
and
less
even when they're
fantasy.
on Earth, it's not necessarily Japan. It's just Earth. You know,
it's more.
And same thing, Trigun. They give names of the places, whatever, which I don't know as well. Maybe it is Japanese, but they're not specifically like a big notable like a lot of these places. A lot of them take place in Tokyo because of how big Tokyo is. Like you could have. All these stories take place in Tokyo. I think Tokyo is the biggest. You ever seen how big Tokyo actually is? It's freaking huge, dude.
No, I've never seen. But I know there's like different districts inside of the
because of how big it is. It's crazy. It takes up I think like a third of Japan,
which is insane.
But yeah, like I said, you know they don't necessarily like the older stuff doesn't focus on that. It's just story, you know. As I said, but this newer stuff I think is almost better for that. You know, things like Dandadan kind of has that same.
I think that there's a difference between fantasy and like a fantasy setting versus a fantasy perspective, where you can have a space, you know, anime like Cowboy Bebop or Gundam or you know things in that regard, and they can still be Japanese people.
Yeah.
But like I can see your point where they're putting more of this inside of their city, like making it more personal in their way, where it's like, this is actually happening to us. This is happening here, not this is happening in a far, far away dimension.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah, it is the more personalization almost. You know,
right.
The
what I'm trying to understand, and what I would like to know is, what are your favorite comparisons between New Age and Old Age? We can talk about Solo Leveling versus Cowboy Bebop. What would you think?
Well, obviously the biggest main thing is animation.
Do you think animation is important to an anime?
I definitely think animation is important to any animated project. I think that specifically as far as anime goes, I think anime is kind of known for its big, you know, theatrical, like, I want to say fights, because typically fights where they go all out like that, but just the big animation where it's like, you know, like in Solo Leveling is a great example where a lot of the time when he fights people, like the demon guy with the tower, not in the tower, outside the tower, right? Where he's like running up his arm, he's slashing, he's like dodging and everything whenever the army rises up, things like that. Beautiful animation and smooth and kind of helps immerse you because you're there. You know, in the way, especially the way the camera's angled, the way the sound design is, all that stuff, the way it all culminates, it's very immersive. You know,
right.
For something like Cowboy Bebop, in the very first episode, they're flying up in the spaceships, and you know it looks good for the time, but I'm not as immersed in that. I think because of the way, you know, it's just like spaceship, whoo, wow, we're in the spaceship, as opposed to like if it was animated today, it'd be like, wow. If that makes, I'm trying to auditorily visualize.
Yeah, no, I get
animation.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like you're saying that animation.
I think it helps with immersion, the newer stuff.
Now, do you think that you could like an anime that has wonderful animation but a shitty story?
No.
Do you think you could like a anime that has shitty animation but a great story?
Yes. And like it kind of sounds like, at least not to say that it's shitty, but something like Cowboy Bebop, in comparison to something like Solo Leveling, definitely has worse animation. Right. Obviously because of the product at the time, but unarguably it is worse animation.
Right.
You know, but I loved Cowboy Bebop. I thought it was fantastic, and I think that as long as you're willing to invest yourself, it's fun. And we're talking about Invincible a little bit. It's the same thing. Invincible's story is so good. I really never even noticed the animation until people started ragging on it online.
Right.
You know, when you get that invested in something, you know, as long as it's not horrendous,
right?
You know, you can put past maybe a couple of parts that look like a floating PNG. You know, like it's okay because it's okay.
Give it a pass.
You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be the greatest thing put to screen for it to be good.
Right.
You know, and I think they said, I think that's Cowboy Bebop is a great example of that.
Yeah, and I think I could agree with that statement where I think that if it has a great animation but a shitty story, I'm not likely to finish the series. But if it has a great animation or great story and not that good of an animation, I'm still going to watch it through.
Yeah.
You know, it may not have the big flashy moments where you're on the edge of your seat looking and drooling and having that whole cinematic experience, but like it's definitely in that realm where like I'm going to finish this anime because I enjoy it.
Would you like to pivot now then to our challenge segment? Because I feel like Trigun is a great example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you?
Please.
I thought Trigun was ass, dude.
It is.
It was not good.
Yeah, it is.
I won't lie. I got so bored of it. I was really trying to lock in and make sure I'm paying attention to these and everything like that. I got so bored after the first 2 episodes, I came upstairs and started playing Mortal Kombat and had it on the background so I wasn't bored out of my mind. Yeah. Dude, this one was rough. Visually, it wasn't too bad. You know, it's kind of on par the same way of a Cowboy Bebop, you know, prior to the time. Yeah. But it felt all over the place. Like the main character also is
Vash the Stampede.
Vash the Stampede. Great idea that he's such a mythical figure that no one really knows who he is for sure.
It was all rumors.
Yeah. First of all, the tax or the insurance ladies.
Yeah.
are stupid.
Wonderfully stupid.
How do you, for 5 whole episodes, not realize after he happens to show up at the same time as you and happens to do all the things that Vash the Stampede has been known to do? You know, dude.
I think honestly
and
that
the pervert trope, dude. The pervert trope. He like it's like they kept switching between like, yes, I am Vash and I will do what I can to save these people. Peace and love. Oh, look at her. She has boobies. Like, dude, like you can. Yeah. Why does he have to be a pervert? Why can't he just be a hero? Why do heroes have to be perverts? I don't understand.
Yeah. I think that Vash the Stampede, like, I agree. And that's one of the reasons I gave it to you, because it's a shit anime.
Yeah, I was so, because I'd heard of it before. I thought it was going to be like a one of the big mainstays, you know?
No,
you didn't tell me it was
it's
shit.
Nostalgic. It's nostalgic. It's okay, but it's one of those, like,
you like it because you grew up on it.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't.
Yeah. I know. And like, just the story, I remember enjoying Trigun.
Mm-hmm.
Watching it back, it's
Is that
shit.
why you watched 3 instead of the 5 you gave me? Because you said you also rewatched it to kind of have an idea since you hadn't seen it in a while.
I know I stopped at episode 3 and I kept watching it. It's terrible.
How did you stop and keep watching it? Like you stopped in one session, or?
Yeah, I went to bed.
I thought you meant you only watched it. Never mind. Okay, that makes sense.
No, I went to bed.
He's like, I just stopped watching, and then I also saw the rest.
Yeah, no. But yeah, it does not hold up.
No,
not at all.
And it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I do think that like they also didn't do a great job at setting everything up.
Oh yeah.
That whole first episode was kind of just like, wow, there's a bounty on this guy's head. Are you him? No. Are you him?
$double.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's with that? What does that even mean? $60 trillion $double? Does that mean it's actually $100
billion? It's $60 billion $double. Okay.
So what does that mean? He's worth $12 billion? What does the $double mean? Is that anything?
You mean $1.2 trillion? I
don't effing know.
Math, bro. Math.
I suck at math. That's why we're doing a podcast and I'm not in college.
Fair. And it's actually 120, not 1.2. I suck at math too.
Yeah, don't get high and mighty with me. Get off your damn high horse.
I'm on a chair.
Well, it looks like a horse. It's a weirdly shaped chair.
I'm telling you.
I missed my pants.
Yeah, you still don't have those on.
Honey, where are my pants?
Okay, Frozone.
That's from the Lego movie.
What?
Yes, the TV show that Emmett watches. Honey, where are my pants? And he's like, oh, that's so funny.
I thought you were doing a thing for where's my super suit?
No, where's my pants is
okay, my bad. I didn't know the difference. I've never seen that one.
What's my challenge this week? What do I have to watch this week?
We're not there yet, my man.
I thought are we not done with Trigun?
No, we're not done.
Do you have more to I'm done. This thing sucked. I'm mad you gave it to me. That's my final thoughts on Trigun.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We're going to go into, before I challenge you, we're going to go into Kingdom Come.
Okay, that's fair.
We're going to go into my challenge, and then we'll give the challenges after the fact.
All right, Kingdom Come.
Kingdom fucking Come.
So this was your challenge. So go ahead and give your thoughts first. How did you feel about this one?
Kingdom Come was the first DC comic that I've read front to back.
Ever.
Damn,
okay.
So this was my first.
Do you think this was a good starting point, considering that like the whole point of it is these heroes are retired and coming back? Like,
I don't know.
This is as close to an end as you can get.
Right.
This was your first.
Yeah.
First story.
I think that it was such a good story. I'm craving more.
Really?
To kind of put in perspective, reading has not been something that I've enjoyed doing.
Yeah, me either.
Like,
I think comics are different though.
They are.
Comics help a lot more. I feel like having it spaced out and having that visual input as well kind of makes it easier almost.
Right.
In the most like adult way of saying, I like it better with pictures.
Same. But to kind of put in perspective, over growing up, other than the material I was forced to read from, like, textbooks and stuff like that.
Literature from school.
Things that I've read for my quote unquote enjoyment, I've read 3 books.
What are they?
Captain Underpants.
Are you serious? That's a banger though. That's valid. But that also has pictures in it. What are the other two?
I can't remember. They were so.
You can only remember Captain Underpants. I just hit my microphone.
They were so unnotable.
What an insane lore drop. You've read 3 books and you can only remember Captain Underpants. That's awesome.
Well, I think because the reason I read the other 2 were because they were suggestions for me that I half-ass read them.
Yeah.
But Captain Underpants
is awesome. Like the flipograms?
It was great. And I had to read it for like 5th grade. It was like
Oh, that makes sense less funny because I thought that you meant as an adult you picked up Captain Underpants and was like, this shit slaps.
It was last week.
Dude,
I swear.
You come to me at work, you're like, dude, you ever read this book, Captain Underpants? It's so good.
So good, man. You got pictures that you
like. You flip it back and forth and it's animated, dude. This shit's crazy.
They should have been doing this back in the early 2000s. But kind of reading into this one, it was so good I didn't want to put it down. Like,
I felt the same way. I read it all in one sitting.
I did too. Not only because I procrastinated until the last moment and needed to.
Who would do that?
It was so good. Like, it definitely brought to attention that I don't know shit about DC Comics.
Here's a big one. Interesting thought. Shazam.
You mean Captain Marvel?
Captain Marvel.
How did you feel fucking about that? Captain Marvel?
I'm curious, as someone who's not super familiar with this stuff, how did you feel about that?
I was floored whenever I saw Captain Marvel. I was like, wait, this is a DC fucking comic. What do you mean? And then our good friend Michael explained it to me because he's a great guy.
You already know. Damn, I was so excited to tell you.
I mean, Michael didn't say shit.
No. It lost all that stuff. Marvel was like, his name's Captain Marvel. We should have that name. So they tried to take it, and they did. Yeah. That's why it's called Shazam now.
Yeah.
But Comic Drake, you ever heard of Comic Drake? He's a YouTuber. He did a whole video about the Captain Marvel lawsuits. It's super interesting. But I knew him as Captain Marvel growing up because of the video game Mortal Kombat versus the DC Universe.
Okay.
Everyone says it's a shitty game. I remember it being super awesome. That's how I found out I love Baraka.
Okay, Baraka.
Baraka's awesome.
Baraka wouldn't.
But yeah, they call him Captain Marvel in there too. So I always knew him as Captain Marvel.
Right.
And
I was
all of a sudden he's Shazam out of nowhere.
I was like, because I know who Shazam is. I've watched the movie, and that's like the deepest my lore went for it. But to kind of go into this, and I want to do it in stages that I loved. Fucking Alex Ross.
Dude, you cannot get over Alex Ross.
I can't. I like pictures, and homie did it justice.
Dude, he killed his book. I will admit though, there are some parts where the realism almost makes it a little bit hard to see what's going on. To be honest with you, there's like let's see if I can find it off the top of my head, but like there were certain panels where I was just like, I kind of had to really like pivot my head and be like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Someone throwing a punch, something like that, just like kind of weirdly angled the color and whatever. But no, you're right. Alex Ross does a fantastic job in this.
Goat, dude. But you know, kind of going into that, and that was one of the things that I just kept going into, and I literally, whenever I first got it, I just kind of looked at all the pictures, and there's I looked at them.
You're not helping your case.
I looked at
the pictures. They were pretty good.
That's how I say pretty good.
That's so funny.
And the all the extra content in the back was just.
Did you go through that? I did not go through that.
I
wanted to have enough time to get everything done.
I didn't go through it in a deep dive, but I kind of skimmed through it, and it was good. Destiny looked through it as well. But like I said, it was my first introduction into the DC comics in general, and like you said, it being basically the fucking end.
Yeah.
Of them. I mean, they ended off in a fucking diner, right? That was a parody diner.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of come around a couple different times.
Because the Diana and Kyle or Clark.
Kal-El is his Kryptonian name, but yeah, Clark.
But Diana and Clark having a fucking kid.
Yeah, I hate that.
Were they?
There are a couple
going
different...
into Supergirl, or was that Because I know that I looked it up after the fact, and there's 2 people that it could possibly have been.
That child?
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you. There's not a whole lot of continuities where like a full child is blown. There's there's a couple different continuities where Superman and Wonder Woman are an item.
Right.
And I hate it. I think it's one of the worst pairings in DC. There in the DCAU, the DC animated universe, like the Batman animated series, Justice League, all that stuff from the early 2000s, late 90s. Wonder Woman's crushing on Batman in that one, and I think that's kind of weird too, to be honest with you.
Do you think it's
but
like
honestly makes a little more sense?
Is she a homie hopper?
Oh.
Because I feel like Batman and Superman had like this tension.
Continuities, though.
Right, but let's talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
But like Batman and Superman are like friends, but they're not friends. They're like frenemies. In some
once again, also depends on the continuity.
But like
Superman and Batman are best friends. In a lot of different ones. I think the problem is Superman and Batman have gotten this weird... in my headcanon, it makes sense that Batman is skeptical at first.
Right.
And maybe a lot of those stories where it's like, I don't trust you, alien, or blah, 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 whatever. Maybe happens in the
everyone
first
would be.
couple years of Batman's existence. But I think that, like, there are a lot of stories where Batman and Superman are not just really good, like, partners, see eye to eye on crime fight, whatever, but they're also friends. Not only friends, but, like, best friends. And I think that those are some of the best stories where they're, like, not trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many stories now have gotten popular where it's Batman versus Superman. Literally, not the movie, but that's a great example of it.
Right.
You know, that's kind of become the public eye's opinion of the two, but they're not enemies.
Well,
they're
had...
literally called World's Finest. They are the World's Finest. They are a duo.
But they had that competitive, or like that opposition in this book.
But they weren't really enemies, which I liked a lot.
Right,
too.
they had a difference of opinion.
Yeah, but they weren't against each other.
Right.
Yeah, and I did kind of like that too. Something that occurred to me, you said you've never really played them. This is Injustice. And having not read Kingdom Come prior to playing those games, I'm more familiar with the Injustice story.
Right.
Since you don't know it as well, let me break down Injustice for you. Ready? The Joker comes to Metropolis and kills Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Yep. Causing Superman to become a tyrant. Right?
Okay.
Now, the difference, I think, the biggest difference is the way Superman goes about it, because in Injustice, it's his slow progression to an evil tyrant. Versus here, he is doing a lot of stuff that's kind of like almost Emperor-like, where he's kind of like taking charge, making a prison for these people who won't obey, whatever. But he's still doing it in a way that's like an attempt at being good. Right. You know, like he isn't just like, you kill people, get in here. You know, it's more of like he tries to reason with them first. He's trying to show them a better path to being a better hero, as opposed to just like, you oppose me, get in this prison.
Right.
You know,
we'll get into that. I want to put a pin in that for sure.
Okay.
Because there's definitely something I want to talk about the gulag.
The gulag.
Gulag and how, you know, when it came down to it, and like the projections and all that kind of stuff, when it came down to like basically a freaking mind camp, these conversion camp.
Kinda. That's what it's meant to be, yeah.
Which is insane to me, because like when we think about free will and think about humanity, we think about that and being, you know, granted, yes, they're not holding humanity and life to the highest of regard. And they're like, we're getting shit done.
Yeah, they just don't seem to really care about casualties at all. Which I kind of said, that's one of the things I knew about it going in already. I didn't realize the severity of it, though. Like, there's honestly, there's a part straight up where there's a guy at the Statue of Liberty who's like, if you're not American, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Right.
But, here, actually. I flipped right to it. Here's something I thought was really cool. That's Red Robin.
Yeah.
That design is Red Robin.
I didn't know who Red Robin was.
Red Robin is Tim Drake. No.
What?
Is Tim Drake after... there's a lot of different Robins. Obviously, we've talked before about Nightwing. Nightwing's my favorite. Dick Grayson, the first Robin, becomes Nightwing. Jason Todd, the second Robin, becomes Red Hood. You know, once they lose the Robin mantle, they become somebody else. Tim Drake was Robin. He wasn't, like, adopted into the role, whatever, you know. Like, he became Robin because he wanted to be Robin.
Was there another Robin that, like, got killed off because, like...
Yeah, it's Jason Todd.
Okay. They had like, and Michael told me this. They had like a phone in.
No one liked him
to kill his ass.
Really like, guys, do you want him to continue? You know, call in and let us know.
This number
resounding, like, no, kill him off. Yeah. So that's why death in the family happened. Which is, I will definitely have that as one of your challenges.
I'm excited for that. Then.
But footnotes, The Joker manipulates Jason by using his birth mom
Okay.
to do stuff against Batman, and then he ends up, I think, using the mom to get him to lure him, and then he kills them both. And in order to stop Batman from doing anything rash, because Batman was gonna kill the Joker, this was gonna be his breaking point. You killed my son, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And in order to stop Batman from doing that, he becomes the ambassador to, I think it's Iran.
Okay.
So it becomes a political issue, and Batman can't kill the Iranian ambassador, or else it'll start a war.
Yeah.
So the Joker is literally the Iranian ambassador just so that Batman won't kill him. It's like the pinnacle of like dumb 70s, 80s comics,
it's
dude.
Insane.
It's so great.
Because like there's definitely a lot of like, and these are like the I talked about the iceberg today.
Yeah.
Because like I realize I don't know shit about DC, even though I've consumed a lot of like the movies and everything that's come out of it, and I feel like I know a lot of like the mainstream ones, but like there's so much shit that I have no freaking clue about.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes it so fun though. Is that part of this conversation we had too was the fact that like I've been into this stuff since I was a child. You know,
Right.
so my dad's a huge nerd. Got me into comics, but a lot of it has been growing up was the cartoons.
Right.
You know, the movies. You know, I've seen the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie probably 1,000,000 times. You know, things like that. But you know, I had comics growing up, and then as I got older, I got more into like actually probably reading them, whatever.
Right.
But you know, there's a lot of stories that I know about that I haven't actually read myself. That's part of the reason I read Kingdom Come With You is because I know this story.
Yeah.
I never read it, and now that I've actually read it more closely, it's a little bit different than what I had thought it was. You know.
So what do you think about it? Like coming from someone who has a lot of like the knowledge around the side stories or the beginnings of these things, because like you said at the beginning of it, it was like basically the end. Like these guys are retired. This is past their prime, as if they could have some sort of ending of a prime.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I think it's really good. First
Okay.
of all, I do think that knowing Injustice already and going into this and seeing all those similarities kind of ruined it for me a little bit. To be honest,
Okay.
with you. The other big thing I want to bring up real quick was with the Injustice similarity is Wonder Woman being so war heavy and convincing Superman that that's the right path. She does that in the Injustice too, and that I don't know enough about Wonder Woman to say that's out of character, but from what I know about Wonder Woman, I don't like when they take that path with her of her being like war driven.
Right.
Like she is put in the man's world to be an ambassador to Themyscira and kind of show that it's not necessarily it doesn't have to be violent.
Well, that's one of the reasons she got exiled, right?
Yeah, that they thought that the world changed her, whatever. But
right.
Like, I just don't like war-driven Wonder Woman. I feel like that's not a hero. That's a general, and I don't like that. You know, especially because Wonder Woman is like the female superhero,
right?
And I feel like when she's done wrong, it does a disservice to feminine heroes in general. You know, that's why like the first Wonder Woman movie is pretty good. The second one is not great, and I feel somewhat similarly for the same thing. Not necessarily the war drawn things. They don't do that in the movies, but like I said, Injustice. Huge part of her character. She sucks in those games. Yeah. I genuinely hate Injustice Wonder Woman. She's terrible, and part of the big problem of why Superman is evil in those games, I think. She kind of does a turnaround in here where it's a lot better, and you know, it's more clear that she's just kind of lost her way as opposed to she's kind of secretly almost evil,
right?
You know, and so I think I like that more of her kind of coming back around. But either way, I think ultimately what it comes down to is there's what I feel is a little bit of mischaracterization in here.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Superman would lock himself away like he did.
I don't think so either.
I also feel like he's almost a little bit naive in this book.
Right.
You know, and I love that he's so dedicated to hope and the dream of the better tomorrow and everything. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of what makes Superman so good is that we talked about Invincible last week about that line of realism. You can't just not kill. Mm-hmm. But I think that Superman's point of that's who he is. He doesn't, and you shouldn't. And that preach whatever is what makes Superman who he is.
Well, I feel like there's definitely a restraint when it comes down to having more of the ability, because like you have to be restraintful. If like say you have a gun, you have to be more restraintful of the power that you have. You can't be
flicking around when it's fully loaded. Yeah,
right. And I feel like that's an extreme or like a very very small version of what Superman has. Like he's a nuclear weapon that he could just if he wanted to, he can end it.
That's part of the reason they keep talking about this book that, like, whether he likes it or not, he's a world leader.
Right.
Because he is the greatest example of with great power comes great responsibility.
That's a great line.
They say that in here, actually, which kind of caught me off guard somewhere in here. But no, like, in all seriousness, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Superman, you're right, is the greatest poster boy for just because I have the power to do whatever I want doesn't mean I should do it to serve anyone other than the public.
Right.
You know,
and Superman, I think he said that in one of the panels was like
something similar to that. Yeah.
Was like it if I wanted to, I can.
Yeah. But that's why I said I think he's the greatest example of why any of these heroes who have been around and are still doing anything could have made that jump of like setting the example for these heroes. But the reason it had to be Superman is because Superman is that person.
Yeah.
You know, he's the symbol of hope, the symbol of peace. And obviously when that went away, so did a lot of the things that he stood for. That's why it was important that he came back and he was the one who spread this message and he was the one taking this into his own hands. And you can watch that pressure get to him. And as he his judgment starts to get clouded towards the end, it's Captain Marvel who has to make that judgment call because Superman has been clouded so bad and he's the only one who walks both of those worlds.
Right.
You know?
Shazam!
Dude, he was
Shazam!
He was killing Superman, dude. That's like the most I think I've seen Superman take in a while.
But even then, he was like, "You're knocking me off balance, but you're not doing any damage."
Yeah, kind of like Mark and Nolan in the Omni-Man fight.
It's like, bro, you're like you might be pushing me back right now, but like, give it up, bro. You're not doing shit.
I don't know. I think that ultimately Kingdom Come is a great story. I think that if you're craving more, there's definitely more that we can give.
I loved it so much. Like it definitely opened my eyes to comic books. Now, I bought myself Tech Jacket.
Yeah.
It's the first comic book I've ever bought. First graphic novel I've ever bought.
And you've already read at least one of them. You read both of them already?
I've read half of the second one. First one and half of the second one.
In about a week. And on top of that, you've also read Kingdom Come.
I read those in a day.
That's crazy.
And I just there's been other things going on, plus the Kingdom Come and everything like they needed to be doing. But over the next 2 days, I'll be reading and finding it. And I kind of don't want to finish it because then I don't have the second two ones. Yeah. I don't have the other volumes. Which, on a side note, I can't find volume 4 as like a. Well, I look on Amazon. I probably look on other ones.
Yeah, I'm sure we can try and find it somewhere else.
Because I want to get the full set. I mean, there's 4 volumes, and I'd like to have the actual comic book versions of them. But I digress. But kind of to wrap it up, Kingdom Come was a pleasure to read.
Yeah, that was great.
A visual masterpiece to really kind of go from there. I want to have more comics. I want to get more of them. I want to read them. I want to touch them.
Ma'am?
What?
Anyway, I think that's gonna wrap up the talking about it. I think.
Okay.
For this next week, I have another book for you. It's significantly smaller.
Okay.
Right now, Daredevil Born Again is coming out on Disney Plus.
Okay.
I'm locked in on Daredevil right now. I never finished season 3. We talked about that in the first episode. Actually, I think I'm on episode 11.
Yeah.
There's 13, so I'm getting pretty close to done. But I am personally invested in Daredevil right now.
You mean Ben Affleck, the best Daredevil ever?
No, I don't. Shut your
just
freaking
like
yap hole.
Just the best one ever.
You haven't even seen the Netflix series. Charlie Cox blows Ben Affleck way out of the water, dude. It's not even close. Did you see Spider-Man No Way Home?
Yeah.
He's in there. He's the I'm a really good lawyer. That's Charlie Cox's Daredevil. That was Matt Murdock.
Meh.
I'd beat your ass. Anyway, my challenge to you this week, it's the one Daredevil comic I have I think is really good. It's called Daredevil Yellow.
Okay.
To my knowledge, this is kind of a Daredevil classic. I'm not as familiar with what the fantastic Daredevil. I know Born Again, obviously, of title is one of his big ones. Kevin Smith, you know Kevin Smith? The guy who did Clerks?
Yes.
Big comic book fan. He did a Daredevil run. And it's actually, it's pretty good. Daredevil Yellow is written by Jeff Loeb, which we've talked about before already. He's the guy who did Batman Hush.
Yeah.
Batman Hush, really good. And it's drawn by Tim Sale. He's known for Spider-Man Blue and Batman The Long Halloween, which are both stories I have on my list for you to read at some point. So take this in. Tim Sale is someone you're going to see again soon. And Jeff Loeb probably as well. This story has him in his yellow and red suit, which I don't know if you've ever seen before, is not obviously his typical attire. Flipping through here a little bit, there's some cameos from this. I've paid to open up right is Electro. Obviously, I don't know how well you know Daredevil, but he's pretty connected with Spider-Man because they're both New York based.
Ben Affleck, great.
The Fantastic Four are in here as well.
Okay. That's fantastic.
Oh, you rustle my jimmies! Take this freaking comic book. What do I have to watch this week?
Okay. I want you to watch 5 episodes.
If you say 5 more episodes of Trigun, I'll kill myself live on the podcast.
No, of Kaiju number 8.
Okay, how appropriate.
Yeah. I think that since the movie's coming out and there's a lot of hype around it, I think Kaiju number 8 is going to be a great series to watch.
All right, cool. We're both going with something that's out right now. That's big hype. Cool. Yeah. All right, Kaiju number 8. Do you think I'll see the Woman Republic song in there?
Maybe.
I ain't worried about it right now.
Well, I think it's time for
Roll for Ending! Okay, we got 19 again. So this is the first repeat that we've gotten so far of a number. So I think now's a good time to let everyone know that once we do an item from the list of Roll for Ending, we replace it with something else. So 19
keep it fresh.
Is now Podcast of the Year, which is where we, as host, I must now graciously accept the award for Podcast of the Year. We've won.
Yeah,
we've won.
We won
Podcast of the Year.
It's fantastic.
This is such a huge honor. I first of all like to thank my co-host Derek. I couldn't have gotten here without you. This is a 2-person gig, and this is
why are your pants still off?
21 Pilots. Anyway, so yeah, this is a huge honor. I'd like to thank my mom and my dad because you have to.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Ben Schwartz because he voices Sonic the Hedgehog. I'd like to thank my childhood dog, Baby. She was a Jack Russell Terrier. I'd like to thank Will Arnett for voicing Lego Batman. And I'd like to thank... I don't know if there's anyone else important.
I'd like to thank Michael, our number
Michael,
one fan.
let's thank Michael. He got us Kingdom Come. We couldn't have done this episode without you, Michael.
Yeah.
Thanks to Michael. And finally, thank you to Owen Wilson for voicing Lightning McQueen. You changed my life, and I love you.
Ka-chow.
Ka-chow.
Well, that's
fantastic. Oh, shit. You're hosting this week.
That's fine.
You did a great job. You were supposed to do that.
You did a great job. All right. Thank you for listening to the Variety Voiceover. That's all for this week. In the meantime, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. While on YouTube, you can check out the Comeback Kid films from video projects. You can email us at varietyvoiceoverpod@gmail.com. But as for now, this voice is over.
We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, thank you. You seem
You didn't even try to stop me.
You seem like you were going for it, man.